get started in today's webinar, let me say that we've got over 200 Texas educators on the webinar today, which is a really good number, including superintendents, assistant supers, executive directors and directors, chief academic officers, principals, area coordinators, teachers, and many more. So there's a wide range of roles participating with us today, and we're happy to have you with us. We know that your time is valuable, so we don't expect today's presentation, the presentation itself, to go much more than about 45 minutes, and then of course we'll leave some time at the end for the Q&A, as David mentioned a moment ago. So now I'd like to introduce the presenters for today's webinar, and then we'll turn the time over to them. First of all, Susanna Garza has 27 years of experience in public education and currently serves as the coordinator of digital age learning at Education Service Center Region 20 in San Antonio. She's passionate about the possibilities that technology has to offer and the importance of preparing students for their future. Susanna supports schools in fulfilling their vision of teaching and learning in the digital age. In October 2015, she became an IPEC certified life coach, and English is her fourth language. Samantha Gallegos serves as coordinator of school support and leadership development at Education Service Center Region 20. Samantha is celebrating her 25th year in education and has had the honor to serve in multiple roles, both at the campus and district level. She has been a campus administrator, district coordinator, curriculum director, and has had the amazing honor of being a classroom teacher as well. Samantha believes that teaching is truly the profession that creates all other professions. Our third presenter is Ben Goodrow, a senior strategic partner advisor for Texas at School Improvement Network. Ben has spent the past 3 years supporting over 500 schools in Texas with the implementation of online professional development. Ben comes from higher ed, where he worked with the enrollment and onboarding of students into college, and it was there that Ben learned the importance and the value in preparing our K-12 students for college, career, and life. Ben is passionate about supporting teachers because of the powerful influence and the impact they have on our children's future. So we're super excited to have these outstanding presenters with us today, and with that, I'll turn the time over to them.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? This is Susanna. And let's go ahead and begin by sharing our notes for today. And we're going to post this on our website after this webinar so you can access our slides. They are all in Google Slide format. I'd like to share with you our agenda for today. After the introductions that we've already covered, we're going to talk a little bit about why Edivate and the partnership between our service center and School Improvement Network. We're going to turn it over to Sam, who's going to cover for us an overview about T-TESS. And then after that, Ben is going to talk about Edivate and Edivate alignment with T-TESS. And after that, we're going to talk about what it takes to have a successful Edivate implementation at your district. And at the very end, we're going to open it up for questions and answers using your chat format in this webinar. So I'd like to begin by talking about our partnership. So Education Service Center Region 20 has embarked in this formal partnership with School Improvement Network to provide access to Edivate to all schools in our region. And as I say that, please do not think that this webinar is just for Region 20 schools. This is for all schools throughout the state. This is part of our implementation support, and we want all schools to benefit from it. And if you have any questions about signing up for Edivate, you need to contact Ben after the webinar. But basically what we do through our partnership is that we have secured some cost savings for our schools. We're also certified professional developers for Edivate, and that's the way we provide the service to our districts. And then we have a lot of ways to support the implementation that we're going to discuss toward the end. So now that we said that, let's talk about why the partnership and why Edivate. So the first thing is that we notice that Edivate is a perfect solution to meet a critical need. And the critical need is that teachers need that just-in-time professional support. What does this look like? How can I improve my practices? I wonder what other teachers are doing in their classrooms, you know, third grade math with manipulatives or whatever that might be. How do I meet the needs of my special students or students with different abilities? And so the library in Edivate has a wealth of resources on how to address that. By the same token, there may be opportunities for teacher growth that some administrator may want to provide the teacher, and so there are some specific resources to meet specific individual needs of teachers. The next reason why we think Edivate is important is because there's a lot of research that backs up the effectiveness of on-demand professional development. And so I just want to share a couple with you. The first one is from the Journal of Instructional Psychology, and this is an article that was published in 2014. And basically what this article says is that use of on-demand professional development with fidelity leads to student improvement. So what fidelity means is only 10 minutes of use per day. It might be 1 or 2 videos per day. In addition to that, participating in reflection questions, which are always asked during those videos and also at the end or a couple of days later. Participating in forums and observations and in professional learning communities. And all of these are within the platform. So as you will see by the graphs at the bottom of our screen, we're comparing the blue bar is schools that are not using on-demand professional development or using it sporadically. And then the green column shows when the teachers are using this with fidelity, these are the gains in reading and in mathematics for our students. The same study shows gains in student discipline, in improving or reducing dropout rates, actually by 20%, more students that are enrolled in college, and also an increase in student retention. Another study by the Journal of International Educational Research published gains in student performance when on-demand professional development is used for an extended period of time with fidelity. So the blue column is when it's used 2 to 3 years, which is kind of in line with the study we just talked about. And then the orange bar shows 4 and 5 years of usage. The green bar is 6 or 7 years of sustained usage. So definitely a connection here. And the last study is from the International Journal of Evaluation and Research in Education. And what this one says is it studies 169 schools in 73 districts that were spread in 19 states. And student performance levels. At the top is math, at the bottom is reading. There's a contrast before year 1 is pre-on-demand professional development, and year 2 is post on-demand professional development used with fidelity for a whole year. So drastic improvement, and the improvement is much more drastic in individual schools and across a district. And so what these 3 studies shows is that dramatic improvements in student achievement can occur with a sustained and strategic focus on maximizing teacher greatness. Last but not least, I would like to talk about the importance of T-TESS and Edivate, because now that the new teacher evaluation system is in place or about to be adopted, there are a lot of questions regarding what does that look like and feel like in my classroom. And so Edivate allows us to illustrate these practices. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sam.
So good afternoon, everyone. So in thinking back, as we've seen the last few years, PDAS has drifted from its original intent to be the professional development system for teachers and become more, and what it's done is become more of a compliance document. So in addition, we all know that education has evolved over the last 17 years, and the state looked at that and decided that T-TESS was developed to update the evaluation tool to truly complement what's happening in classrooms today and what many districts are already doing on their campuses, which are three things: creating an open collaborative environment, creating a constant and consistent focus on instruction, and creating an environment of building the capacity of both teachers and principals. So then along comes the Texas Teacher Evaluation Support System, what we now know as T-TESS. So this is the new evaluation system adopted by the state in conjunction with the National Institute for Excellence in Teaching, also known as NIET. And as we know, T-TESS is currently in its second year of piloting and will be used by over 90% of LEAs in 2016-17. So T-TESS was developed to create a growth mindset for both teachers and principals, which will cause a change in the way we think about our evaluations and how we support the growth of our teachers. It's composed of three areas, which is an observation, a goal setting and professional development, and a student growth component that will not be implemented statewide until 2017-18. As you can see, the rubric, there are 4 domains in the rubric. The 4 domains are planning, instruction, learning environment, and professional practice and responsibilities. And within these 4 domains, there are 16 dimensions. In the planning domain, there are 4 dimensions. In the instruction domain, there are 5. In the learning environment, there are 3. And in professional practice and responsibility, there are 4. And as you can see on the screen, here is an example of dimension 1.1, planning, and the ratings that will be used during the T-TESS observations. So again, the system developed to create a growth mindset, and the opportunity for growth in implementing T-TESS can be categorized in what I believe are 4 areas. So let's talk a little bit about the mindset first. This is truly a shift from a compliance or a gotcha tool evaluation that is what PDAS had become, to a growth mindset. So if we think about it, we all have areas that we want to strengthen, both as teachers and as principals. And T-TESS gives us the opportunity to do this and be accountable to others, in addition to being accountable to ourselves through our goal setting. And we'll talk a little bit about how Edivate will support us in reaching our goals. The second is time. Yes, it will require more time. But today, Ben will talk to us a little bit about some options through the use of Edivate and how it can support you and your use of time more efficiently throughout the implementation of T-TESS. The third is resources. So the question keeps coming to us at the service centers: how do we provide enough resources, Sam, to our teachers in order for their professional development to continue to be ongoing? Again, we'll provide some opportunities and some ways that we can use Edivate to help with these resources and how to use the system to grow, to help grow your teachers in their identified areas, both in their goal setting and in their observations. And then the final one is becoming an effective instructional leader. We all know that our ultimate goal is to improve student achievement and the success of our schools. And so by using T-TESS and by finding resources and using our time efficiently, we can develop a system that will support that, the student achievement and the success of our schools. So, in thinking about these 4 opportunities to grow, I'm going to pass this over to Ben, and he's going to talk a little bit about how Edivate can support several of these areas in the implementation of T-TESS, which aligns with Edivate, which aligns with T-TESS, and how it can support you in becoming more efficient with your time during these observations.
Thank you, Sam. So here at School Improvement Network, we've been very excited as T-TESS has been rolling out across the state. We had the opportunity to work with 4 districts that piloted last year, and this year we currently have 19 client districts that are piloting. So we've been able to work closely with them in not only aligning our resources, but tweaking some of our tools to support T-TESS and its processes. So I'm going to walk you through what we do and some of the supports that we have within Edivate. To get started, I realize some of you are familiar with Edivate. You may have been familiar with our previous name, PD360. Same platform, we just updated the tool and then have gone through and tweaked some of our content, really aligned it more specifically for Texas. So the first thing I want to do is kind of give you an overview of the platform itself, and then we'll jump into some of the specific tools and supports for T-TESS. We are going to provide you after this webinar with login credentials to a trial account, so I'm just going to give you some basic browsing direction, get you familiar with the library itself, and before we jump into the tools. Now, one thing that I want to point out is that with Edivate, we've always been about driving individualized growth for our educators. So that's one of the various reasons we've been really excited about T-TESS, and it's been very easy for us to align and provide resources because that's been our mission, and T-TESS really aligns well with what we do. So in that sense, we're ahead of the game in having this wealth of resources of our online professional development library. So our library itself has about over 3,000 videos from over 130 expert presenters. So it creates a unique opportunity for us to provide individualized resources for our teachers. So I've gone over here and navigated into the video library itself. And there's a few different ways to browse through the library. On the left-hand side here, you'll see some filters that you can browse through, selecting if you're looking for content specific, you have grade levels and subjects. There's also some common topics. But our videos are designed to be bite-sized chunks. So we'll go out and film. A lot of our videos are pedagogical. We'll go out and film with expert presenters like Jay McTighe and Michael Fullen and Schmoker and others. And we'll film their parts of their presentation, and we'll film examples in the classroom. And we understand that teachers don't want to sit down for an hour and watch a video on classroom management, so we break it into these bite-sized chunks. Average length is 5 to 7 minutes. I'll go to one of these videos just to give you an example. We'll scroll down here and get you familiar with some of the tools around the video library itself. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a video. I'm going to pause it because we can't really pass it on. So I want to show you a few of the tools here around the video player itself. Over here on the right-hand side, you have some reflection questions. So that's built into every video. You have 3 reflection questions that are specific to that video that the teacher will fill out as they watch or once they've completed it. I'm going to click through here and go through to the 4th, 5th, and 6th question. And those are actually follow-up questions. So you'll see here they're grayed out. Once it's been 72 hours, the teacher will actually be emailed a link with those to those questions, and those questions are more about how they're able to implement it in the classroom. So it has a built-in follow-up piece as well. Another way to search, I'm going to scroll up here to the top, and I'm just going to type in a topic. So for example, if I do classroom management elementary, so most of our content is segregated by elementary and secondary. So I can do a broad search like classroom management, or I can do something that's more specific. But when I do that search, it's going to pull up a list of videos based on relevance. So I can browse through these videos, and you can see here on the icons there's an eye icon that'll give you a description or a summary of the video. Go ahead and click on that. And then I'm going to play this video and pause it again as well. I'll show you a couple of other resources that each video has. So one, teachers have the ability to go in and search for themselves and do self-directed professional development. The other option is it's actually designed for group use as well. So there's actually a guidebook attached to every video. So you'll see here below there's a guidebook. When I click on that, it's going to download it's like a facilitator's guide. So this is actually really neat to use in a PLC or in a group scenario, or if we're doing PD after school, for example, this will have group discussion questions, group activities. Towards the bottom, we'll have a section on where to go for more information. So it's a great resource for us to go in and watch the video as a group, discuss, and take it to a deeper level of learning. So I'm going to go back into Edivate. And I'm going to go back to our video library, and so I'm going to go to Resources, Videos. So I've been going through some of the segments, but the next section I want to show you here is Programs. This is just another way to browse through our library. And I want to show you this more than anything to give you a feel for the breadth of topics within the library. So when we go out and film with Jay McTighe, for example, in formative assessment, we'll do 10 or 12 video segments in that program. So you'll see the program name on the left. On the right-hand side, you'll see the number of videos. So I'm just going to scroll through this list here, and you won't be able to read all of them, but I just want to give you a feel for the breadth of topics that are available to you and your educators. One of our main intents by having this broad library is to really meet those individual needs of our teachers. And so you'll see content that's designed for teachers. There's content designed for administrators as well, on coaching, on leadership. So that just gives you a little bit of a feel for the topics there. And we won't go all the way through, but as you have those login credentials that we'll send out, feel free to browse through, watch some of the videos. The next thing I want to go to is presenters, up here on the right-hand side. This will give you a list of the expert presenters in our library.
And Ben, I just want to jump in. You know, the complement to T-TESS is T-TESS, and that's the instrument that will be used to evaluate principals. And as you can see, that there are videos that are also related to leadership, because in T-TESS, those principals also have to set goals and define professional development. So it will also support the implementation of T-TESS also.
Yes, thank you, Sam. So I'm going to scroll through this list here as well to give you a feel for the different presenters, and I'm sure that you'll recognize some of these names. So Glenn Singleton, Fenwick English, Harry Wong, Heidi Hayes Jacob, Jim Knight, McTighe, Lynn Erickson, Philip Schlechte, Mike Schmoker, the DeFores, Michael Follin. And you'll see some of these other names, as Sam had mentioned, like Dr. Whitaker and Dr. Daggett, who have great content specifically designed for principals and for other leadership as well. So I'm going to scroll up to the top here. The only other thing I'm going to mention about the video library itself are our content videos. These are new. A lot of our Texas educators are familiar with Edivate from PD 360. One of the newer videos that we've been producing over the last couple of years are our content videos. And so these are a little bit different format. Rather than having an expert presenter, it's going to be a master teacher teaching a specific lesson. So we'll film them teaching. They'll kind of narrate, explain what they're doing and why. But these are actually aligned to the TEKS as well. So if I go into some of these grade level components, so if I go to 6th grade math, for example, we'll see some specific grade levels and topics. And if I pull up one of these videos, the guidebook itself will actually have the lesson plan for that video as well. So you have your traditional, your group discussion questions, group activities, but you'll see here the lesson plan that's included as well. So I'm going to link back in. And you can also search these by topics. You can actually search by specific TEKS. So you could do Math 111.10. I'm going to do a quick search here for kindergarten math. So again, you can browse through the summaries here, the descriptions. One of the neat things about these videos is when you do open them up, you'll see the TEKS that are included in that video highlighted in blue above it as well. So we currently have about 450 of these videos that are aligned to the TEKS, and we're continually adding to that. So that gives you a little bit of a feel for the library itself. Now I'm going to address some of the specific supports that we have for T-TESS. And Susanna, if you'll take us back to the slides, I want to show you one slide here that I found particularly interesting. There was an article from Bill Gates in Gates Notes from October that I really enjoyed. And there's actually a tiny URL here as well. And David, if you could share that with the group. So I encourage you to read this article. It's a great article about the direction that education is moving across the country in regards to teacher evaluation and appraisal. And it's exactly what we're doing here in Texas, where we're moving away from a compliance system or a checklist, and we're really moving towards a growth mindset and improving our teachers and providing the coaching, the feedback that our teachers need. And so in his article, he's discussing those topics. And one of the things he mentioned as different states, including Texas, are going in that direction, there's a comment here that I'm going to read. It said, in places where feedback and improvement systems are well designed, they're generating excitement, and teachers are embracing them. But in places where the system holds teachers accountable without giving them the support they need to improve, teachers are pushing back, and students are losing out on the opportunity to make big gains in achievement. And again, I encourage you to read the article, but I think the concept here is that we've got, I really believe in T-TESS, and we've got the right system, and now we need to follow through with the correct support as we support our teachers and provide the resources and the feedback that they need to grow and improve. So I'm going to take us back into Edivate here, and I'm going to show you some of the specific supports that we've created. One of the first components that we have in T-TESS is the teacher goals, right? So in the first year, they'll select their goals at the beginning of the year, and we actually have a tool that allows you to create those goals. And so I'm going to go to Resources and Learning Targets. And if I go to the portfolio, this is actually a tool designed to create a professional development plan or your set of goals. And so if let's see, I'm actually going to take us into our Texas demo account really quick here because I've got some specific examples. So one of the components that we have is just the ability to provide the resources. So as teachers are creating their goals, every teacher has to create 1 to 2 different goals. And so the question arises, how do we provide the resources and the supports and the training for goals, individual goals for every single teacher in our district? And that's where Edivate really comes in as a strong resource to support that individualized need for growth. So here's an example of the growth tool within our portfolios where the teacher can create their goals. Within their goals, they can create proposed activities that they have. One of the other benefits is that they can actually go in and provide evidences of the work that they've done towards those goals. So for example, if they do a course in Edivate, it's going to automatically show it as completed. If they attend a workshop, they can upload that certificate. And they have the ability here to share that plan with their administrator. So as the principal and the teacher having those conversations and those conferences throughout the year, they can access and view that plan that the teacher's created, discuss it. At the end of year, it has all of the information and the evidence that the teacher has worked towards their goals. And so that's available for the teacher and for the principal as well. The next piece I want to go to specifically are the courses. So I met with the district a couple of summers ago, and they were very interested in Edivate. So we met and discussed it. And they were one of the first pilots, and I hadn't spoken with them for several months, but they called me about a month or 2 into implementing T-TESS and said, Ben, we need to talk. We're implementing T-TESS, and we feel like our teachers are set up to fail. We don't have the resources as a district to provide support, individualized support for all of our teachers to meet their T-TESS requirements. And so they got Edivate specifically so that they could support those teacher goals and provide those resources. So we actually did that through Courses. Courses is a customized tool that we have within Edivate that allows you to create various modules and tasks that can be assigned to the teacher. So you'll see videos as modules, you'll see assessment, group discussion questions, there may be an upload that's required. So I have a list of courses here in my demo account. So I'm going to go in and open up a course just to show you the format here. So you'll have a set of modules, and you'll see in this course here that supports SIOP, there's various videos, there's a reflection question, there's a group discussion question here, there's a lesson plan upload at the end. So in this particular district that was piloting T-TESS, we actually went in and we created courses. They sent us a list of their teacher goals, and we created courses for all of their teacher goals. And that was just something that we do as part of the service of them working with us. So they were able to provide those goals and provide teachers with an online option for them to go in and receive on-demand support, work towards their goal, receive a certificate of completion once they're done, and share that with their principal. So it worked out great for them to be able to provide those resources and supports that, as Sam had mentioned, just having those resources to support really that growth, the coaching, and development of our teachers. So I'm going to go back over here to resources and learning targets again. The next piece I want to take you to is the focus objectives. So again, these are customized as well. We do a lot of customization for our districts. These folders will be custom built for your district or for your school based on, it could be focus areas or initiatives where we'll take content, videos, and place them in the folders. You know, we realize that 3,000 videos is a lot to browse through, so we'll go in and categorize and group them into folders for you and your staff. But it also allows us to do some neat alignment, and one of those is specifically for T-TESS. So one of the components that Samantha mentioned, as well as the time. And as our principals, it's something they have to take into account, right, and plan for, is the time to prepare pre-conference and post-conference and do those observations and provide relevant feedback and supports for the teacher. So one of the things we've done is aligned video content to each of the dimensions of T-TESS. So this allows our principals to come in here quickly and go to one of the dimensions, and they can actually pull up videos here that are specifically aligned to that dimension that they can then share with the teacher. They can assign it to them. They have the ability to go in and see the responses to their reflection questions, and then take that information into a discussion as they're having that feedback and that coaching.
Which then allows principals during their post-conference, part of the requirement of T-TESS is to identify an area of refinement and identify an area of reinforcement. So this allows principals to easily assign videos related to those areas that maybe a teacher needs to improve in, or they're really strong in an area and they just want them to continue building those skills. So it truly supports the post-conference. That's part of the requirement.
And then the last component that I want to show you here, there's a lot to Edivate and a lot of different tools and resources, and we won't go into all of those because we're focusing on T-TESS today. But one of the other things that Sam mentioned was the instructional role of our campus leadership, and that's another thing that we've seen and feedback we've received from our pilot districts is the need for support for our instructional leaders as they fill that role, as they truly move toward being an instructional leader at the campus where they're coaching and they're providing feedback to their teachers. And so we, as Sam had mentioned previously, we do have a lot of content that's specifically designed for our administrators. And so there's content there on coaching, on mentoring, on crucial conversations, things that will support our principals and really moving into that instructional leadership role. So that gives you a little bit of an overview of T-TESS, and we're going to provide you with some login credentials so that you can go in and spend more time and actually watch some of the videos and browse through. But hopefully it gives you a little bit of a feel for what T-TESS has, or excuse me, what Edivate has to offer, and some of the specific supports for T-TESS, and really moving towards the concept of teacher growth, of improvement, and providing the resources and the supports to help our teachers be successful. And so with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Susanna, who's going to talk a little bit more about implementation.
So in terms of implementation, we want to support you in ensuring that Edivate is used with fidelity at your district, at your campus. And we've created a list of best practices based on schools that are currently using Edivate and what works for them, also what doesn't work. And we have published all of those at learnfor21.net/Edivate. And so I'm going to take you there right now. And this is what our guide looks like on the web. I want to direct you to best practices. We're going to have right away. So we have a lot of do's and don'ts and a lot of ideas for you to try. For example, we talked today about a change in mindset. And again, this is an excellent opportunity to challenge the perception that professional development is strictly something provided by the school and the district, and instead allow educators to take ownership of their own professional growth, right? through Edivate. Superintendent or principal sharing by email, you know, this announcement and making it something very exciting so that everybody is looking forward to receiving their credentials and start exploring what is in Edivate. A principal showing Edivate, an Edivate video during a faculty meeting and opening it up for discussion, or asking teachers to view the video before they come to the faculty meeting to discuss, so kind of flipping the meeting. Sweepstakes, you know, plan a competition based on Edivate use, like the top teacher of the month, the top grade level, the top campus of the month, whatever applies to you. Monthly emails that shares with groups of teachers with grade levels or faculty in general some things to look at, or, you know, this is something that we discussed at our previous meeting, this is something else that we would like for you to talk about. You can upload content that is specific to your campus or your district to the Edivate platform, and that becomes available to your entire faculty and staff. Using Edivate resources to start conversations. For example, how do you think this resource can help us achieve our campus or district goals? How do you see yourselves using this resource during the school year? Establish a culture of growth, and that is all part of what T-TESS is all about. And then last but not least, it is extremely important that coaching is added to the support provided by Edivate. If we expect teachers to just view the video and just expect changes to happen in instructional practices, only about 5 to 7% will apply the content at the end. But when we add coaching to it, the percent increases to 80 to 90%. So it is critical to understand that, you know, things don't work on their own. We have to make them work. Things that do not work is assigning content to all staff when one size fits all, because sometimes there is content that may not be appropriate for certain staff members. Do not overwhelm teachers and expect them to complete a large amount of videos or courses in a short amount of time. It is best that you are selective, or you give them certain expectations that are very realistic. And do not tell staff what to do with Edivate, and rather it's teachers that take ownership of their own professional learning, and so they're encouraged to use it, to model its use, but it's their personal choice. So these are some of the things to think about that we'd like to leave you with. And again, this is all available at learnfor21.net/Edivate. And what we do to support implementation at your district. So, of course, you have access to Edivate, or you're thinking about implementing Edivate at your district. So what happens next? Region 20 has certified trainers to provide Edivate essential workshops. And these workshops are usually about half a day, and they focus on the navigation and the exploration of all the tools and resources available within Edivate. So make a most effective use of what Edivate has to offer. The next type of training is Edivate Blueprint and Boot Camp. Ben, can you tell us a little bit more about what Blueprint and Boot Camp entail?
Yeah, definitely. So in years past, we were really a provider of a technology tool. We provided the resource, and we watched as districts had varying success with their implementation and really utilizing the resources to create impact in the classroom. And so rather than just follow a model where we're the provider of the resource, we really stepped in as we have experience working with thousands of schools in implementing our tool. So we now provide a lot of implementation support on the front end as well as during the year. So the blueprint and the boot camp are different methods that we come in and work with the district to facilitate and help them put together their implementation plan, where they'll bring in various stakeholders, so different departments, different levels, probably some principals, maybe even a teacher input potentially, but where it becomes a district plan that incorporates different stakeholders, different departments, and really align that to the district strategic plan. We don't want Edivate to be one more thing on top of everything else. We want it to be a support that supports the things that we're already doing in the district. So Blueprint is a one-day type of training. Boot Camp's a more intensive process. It's 2.5 days. So far we've had just phenomenal feedback from our districts that have gone through that process. And then the Partner Success Manager is a follow-up to that. It's actually an individual that's assigned to the district. So they'll work with the district on putting together their plan, but they'll continue to work with them throughout the year, having regular meetings to, one, a sort of follow-up, but also to provide support. So they're the main contact for the district as you're building different courses, as you're aligning content to initiatives. Will be that main contact that'll make those things happen. But also taking a proactive approach to implementation as far as providing reports and resources, helping with principals as they may encounter stumbling blocks, or maybe they're not getting buy-in from staff. He can help and support, share his or her experience working with other schools that have had experience with a successful implementation.
And even though this is what we support at, what we provide in terms of support at the moment, we continue to explore other ways to support districts as we learn more about Edivate and more about how this supports T-TESS. We become more and more familiar with all the possibilities, and this menu might expand. So last but not least, you know where to reach us. And before we turn on to the questions, Ben and me, Susanna, are your primary points of contact for everything Edivate. I am at the Service Center and support this region, and then it's more at the state level. And at this time, we would like to open it up for questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Susanna. And this is Todd again from School Improvement Network. And we do have a number of questions that have been coming in. And the questions generally are falling under two categories. There's some questions about T-TESS in general, and then there are some questions that are focused a little bit more on Edivate and T-TESS and how Edivate supports T-TESS. So what I'd like to do is just read some of these questions to our presenters and have you guys answer these as best you can. That'll be the easiest way to do this. So let's get started. The first question comes from Regina, and it is a T-TESS question. And she says, it'll be a challenge for me to identify 1 to 2 areas of focus of development for every teacher, as this will involve a lot more time and activity on my part. Is there a best way to approach this?
Well, if we're talking about the goal setting part, that is really done by the actual teacher themselves. So it's a matter of, as an administrator, having that conversation with them and guiding them to identify some areas that they would like to grow in. If it's in regards to the observation, the refinement, and the reinforcement, that's actually a requirement of the T-TESS system. So it really is, I would say, a matter of just having those constant discussions with those individual teachers, having conversations as you're doing your walkthroughs, as you're passing them in the hallways. You know, the bottom line with T-TESS is it truly is an increase in conversations with staff.
Wonderful, thank you. Next question is from Stephen, and Stephen says, can you talk a little more about how goal setting and professional development in T-TESS differ from self-assessment in PDAS?
Wow, so goal setting in T-TESS is actually, so you have to think about T-TESS as almost 2 separate components, right? You've got the goal setting, which is really about self-reflecting. And then you have the observation where the rubric is used. And so if you look at, if you recall domain, let's see, domain 4 of T-TESS would be the one that's most aligned with section 8 from PDAS. But I don't want to go into too much detail because those are kind of the nuts and bolts. But what I want you to think about, Stephen, is it is two separate components. So the goal setting, again, is self-reflective, really having the teachers identify where they want to grow. And it's not administrative directed. And then
Okay, sorry, it looks like we have a little bit of a technical problem. We've lost the audio feed coming from our presenters. And so we will spend just a minute here trying to restore that if we can. We do have a couple other questions that are very relevant and pertinent questions, so we ask you to be patient for just a couple minutes, and we will try to reestablish that audio connection and finish out some of these questions. So we thank you for your patience, and if you'll just hang tight for a minute, we'll see if we can't get them back up. Okay, we're still trying to work out the audio for all of you that are attending this or viewing this webinar, but we do have a backup audio connection that we've set up, and hopefully this will let us answer a few more questions. So I do have the presenters on a separate audio line, and I will go ahead and read the next question, and let's see if we can get an answer on that from one of you. This question comes from this is again is more of a T-TESS focused question from Veronica. Do you have any more insight on when student growth will become a required component of T-TESS?
So it will become a required component in 2017, 18, and the type, there are multiple types of student growth that can be used, and that's actually defined in the T-TESS handbook, and it will actually be a local decision. So conversations within districts, if you are a pilot school already, are happening. If you're not, I would strongly encourage those conversations to start happening and to download the T-TESS guidance and student growth. And TEA is developing more documents regarding student growth and what those might look like and how they might be implemented. But there will not be a prescribed requirement directly from the state.
Thank you, Samantha. We have a question that's more applying to Edivate. This is from Jean. Has a T-TESS evaluator rated any of these lessons, the lessons that are being highlighted on Edivate? And probably a related question to that would be, it would be interesting to know how the master teacher's lessons score on the T-TESS rubric. Can you guys answer that?
So that's a really good question. So we internally, with Dr. Lisa Luis and Dr. Kelly Glass at School Improvement Network, who have years of experience working as administrators and curriculum directors in large school systems, did the initial alignment to the rubric. We partner with Region 20. We also partner with Region 3, 10, and 11. And of course, we have a lot of districts outside of those regions that are clients as well. But one of the benefits of our partnership with the ESDs is they can help us with that as far as providing direction to us, ensuring that we align and that what we're driving with T-TESS is aligned to what TA intends for the process. So they've been able to help with some of that process as well. And as far as reviewing those videos of master teachers and how they score in T-TESS, you know, with 450 videos, various teachers, I'd imagine they kind of score in various different areas, and we all teach differently, so we're going to have different, you know, approaches to teaching. But those are intended to be example videos. So, for example, one question I get a lot is, do we have examples of what not to do? And those we do not have. They're really intended to be examples of good teaching, quality, things that we can duplicate in our own classroom. So they're going to be at the higher end. But again, T-TESS is really about growth, right? Where proficient is a rock solid teacher. So you're gonna see areas for growth in even some of our master teachers, because based on T-TESS, it's designed for every teacher to be able to improve, rather than have a large group of our teachers at the highest rating where there's no room for growth.
In addition, remember the videos are 5 to 7 minutes, and we're capturing the best of the best in certain areas. In T-TESS observation, you will observe an entire lesson cycle. So it's hard to truly evaluate the videos, being that we're only capturing a snippet of her class.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Terry, who asks, to reduce cost, can a district merge all aspects of PD/T-TESS and meet all, if not most, of state requirements?
John, can you reread that question?
Yes. To reduce cost, can a district merge all aspects of PD/T-TESS and meet all, if not most, of state requirements?
I guess the question would be how they define state requirements. In the sense, and I'm thinking in the sense of meeting all the requirements of the actual evaluation process. How the professional development is defined is not necessarily outlined anywhere in the actual evaluation tool. So to say that there's the possibility that Innovate could meet those, yes. Highly unlikely that it meets 100%, but I will tell you it can meet a large percentage.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, if I made it to Susanna, I would like to add something to that. By providing on-demand professional development, the question was whether or not it would cover all the PD needs at district, if I'm correct. And so this is a way to meet certain needs, probably not all the needs of the district. There may be a need for, staff development for large groups that still needs to be face-to-face. There is definitely a need for on-site sustained support through coaching. So there are different components of professional development, and this is a way to meet that individualized professional development.
Great, thank you so much. The next question, and we've only got about 5 minutes left, folks, so we just have a few more questions we'll try to get to, and we still have, by far, the large majority of our attendees are still online, so this is obviously a topic of real interest, and there are a lot of good questions here. This question comes from Amanda. Who can appraise teachers under T-TESS? Front office, teacher mentors, what are the restrictions?
So right now it's defined as administrators, someone who has direct supervision over the teachers, and it is a required, they have to go through a required training and a certification. So there is an assessment as part of becoming a T-TESS appraiser.
Okay, we have a question from Travis, and this is a little bit more focused on Innovate. Are we able to add our own videos or only tell you all what we are looking for and you add it?
So that's a great question, Travis. You can definitely upload your own content. Our platform is designed to house as much content as you would like to add. So whether it's videos that you currently have, or even DVDs, or trainings that you video recorded, or best practices from your teachers, you can upload those and incorporate them into our platform where you can assign, you can add reflection questions and assessments. You can track the usage of those if you're assigning those out to staff to watch. You definitely have that capability. As far as requests go, I guess there's two components, and I'll try to answer both. You may have only been asking one, but we can go in, and if you have requests for specific content or topics, we can save you and your administrators a lot of time by grouping content for you and finding and locating topics within our library. When it's content that we do not have, about 50% of what we determine to produce in our production schedule is based on client requests. So definitely you can make those requests. It's kind of like a voting system. The requests that are highest on the list are the ones that we put next into our production schedule.
All right, thank you, Ben. The next question comes, this is a little bit more T-TESS related, from Jonathan. Can you recommend a good way, and this might echo the earlier question from Regina about the one to two areas of focus. Can you recommend a good way to make personalized PD recommendations for every teacher?
Yeah, I would say that's one of the opportunities for growth as an evaluator, as an appraiser, because the actually individualized conferences are a requirement. So you're going to have to make those individualized recommendations based on the goals identified by that teacher. Now, that probably doesn't answer your question, but that is one of the areas where it will take a little more time. If you're already having conversations with your teachers, which we hope that's occurring, again, in the hallways, anytime you see them and you're talking about goals and setting goals, then hopefully that will come a little bit easier in the time frame. But I will tell you, in goal setting, when you are doing, when you're conducting goal setting, you can do it in a more group environment. They just have to make sure that it doesn't become this, okay, everybody's going to have the goal of using certain differentiated strategies, right? It still has to be individualized, but you can do it in a group setting. So that alone will save you some time in that component of T-TESS.
Okay, thank you, Samantha. Thank you very much. We have time probably just for one more, and then we probably need to wrap up today's webinar. There are two questions that have come in that are fairly similar, and so let's probably end on these. And it's a general question. Maybe it's a good way to end this webinar. The first one is, what are the biggest challenges the pilot districts have faced as they implement T-TESS? That was from Carla. And then Anne asked a similar question: what general advice would you give to districts to help their implementation, T-TESS implementation, go more smoothly? So this is probably a good opportunity to kind of sum up the challenges and how to address these things.
So I would say the biggest challenges are the shift in the mindset, the shift of that this truly is a tool where we are going to grow together, and finding ways to support that growth. And one of the reasons we wanted to come together today is to show you that there are resources. In particular, there's the resource of Edivate that supports that growth. And the fact that, even though time is going to increase, if we are efficient and we have the resources to support, believe it or not, the time really does not, you're not going to be spending that much more time in developing those PD plans if you align and have those resources in place. And I would encourage districts who are not part of the pilot is to start having your conversations now about what your rollout will look like, what your training will look like, what type of support are we going to be giving our evaluators, because it truly is a huge shift if you are an evaluator. And so, again, having those conversations about growth mindset, about resources, about time, and about truly becoming that instructional leader on that campus.
And I would like to add to that, knowing your resources and having a plan for implementation that includes training, that includes coaching, that includes expectations, and that also includes the freedom of being responsible for your own growth.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I think that we're out of time, so that'll end our webinar for today. I want to give a big thank you to Susanna, Samantha, and Ben for sharing these great insights with us. This information has really been super helpful. And I just want to remind all of our viewers and participants that you will be receiving an email from School Improvement Network that will include a link to the full recording of this webinar, and we will also be including the PowerPoint presentation in that email as well. We will also be providing contact information for our presenters, and we will also